Hey guys, my name is Geminis, aka Jimmy. Today we are going to take a slice of Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. The original Final Fantasy XIV is now referred to as Final Fantasy 1.0 and was hastily released in September 2010. Though it bolstered a stunning visual graphics, a norm to the Final Fantasy series, poor server stability, lack of content, and general lack of testing ultimately led to dwindling populations. Thus, the developer and publisher, Square Enix, made the bold move to close down game servers to revamp the entire game itself, keeping certain aspects and adding additional features. The revamped Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn will launch August 2013 and will be available on platforms as PS4, PS3, and PC. An additional feature available to PC platform is that you are both able to play on a keyboard as well as a default controller mode for USB game controllers. Let's get some common questions out of the way. Are there chocobos in Final Fantasy XIV? Well, yes, there are. You are able to keep them as companions for travel, or you could actually rent them or actually use them as a porter if you can't actually teleport because you don't have enough money. Another question is, can you jump in this game? In 1.0, jumping was not possible, so for each rock you actually had to go around it. But for Final Fantasy XIV, thank goodness, you are actually able to jump now. The last question is it free to play? Unfortunately, it is not. In order to play this game, you will have to purchase a copy with a monthly subscription. Now, if you did go ahead and play 1.0 and purchase a copy at that time, you will not have to purchase a secondary copy. You could just update the copy that you already have. Keep in mind that if you are interested in purchasing a copy, there are pre-order bonuses, and again, it will be on the link, so just check the bottom bar below. Moving on to character creations, there are a total of 5 races available in the game. Now, if you did go ahead and play the MMO of Final Fantasy XI, the races are very much familiar, and they were called Hume, Elven, Taru, Mithra, and Galka, which now for Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn was renamed to Hyur, Elven, Lalafell, Miquote, and Rogadin. Now, if I pronounce those wrong, bite me. Seriously, they're really hard to pronounce. Which all races now are both available in male and female versions, with the addition of the female Rogadin and the male Miquote, two that weren't available in the original 1.0. Now, customization is intense, with a vast amount of attributes that can be enhanced or diminished depending on the look you're going for. From about 200 skin color palette, you could go from a very light shade to a very generous dark shade, creating a base canvas where you could create your character from. As far as for hairstyles, there are about 20 hairstyles that are different for each race and whether you choose a female or a male. But don't let that get you down too much, because your hair color will not be the same. I highly doubt that, because there is a 200 base color palette where you could choose your base color from, and then there is another option where you can add highlights, and that is another 200 color palette as well. So even though your hairstyle might be the same, the color will be different, so you can make yourself a little bit unique that way. And as you can see here, the generous 200 color base palette, and if you see on the very bottom left hand corner of where the big check mark is, there's a small little box that says highlights and it's unchecked. What you can do is basically check that off and it will open the secondary palette where you could add your highlight to. Unfortunately, highlight placement is already preset, so you cannot change where your highlight goes, but you could change the color. And it's different for each hairstyle as well as the race of the hairstyle that you're choosing from. If you still feel like that you're a copy clone to everyone else, why not add a facial feature or tattoos and put them in different colors? There are a various amount of facial tattoos that you could place, like I guess it would kind of be like henna. And you could kind of change the color on them as well. So as you see here, it's kind of based on the red color. However, if you just go right below that, you find the face paint color, where you will have again that 200 color base palette, where you can customize your face paint to match the theme that you are going for. Another unique aspect to Final Fantasy XIV is that you are now able to choose from a voice box palette, I guess you could say, voice samples, where you could customize the voice of how your character sounds. Now, unfortunately, this is not incorporated into any kind of cutscenes because your character doesn't really do any talking. It's all still in text. However, when you use your emotes, I think that's when the voice is used. So such as shouting when you're laughing and such as that. So you could change how you sound. Once you've chosen a perfect voice to go along with your perfect character, just choose a job and your birthday and a god that you want to base your character on. It just kind of helps with certain stats. Just enter the world and proceed with playing the game. If you're a little confused as to what job you want to go for, there are a total of 8 base classes you could choose from character creation, and in turn it will dictate to where your home city will be. Now, there are 3 megacities, which is Alda, Gridania, and Limsa Lominsa. Starting with Alda, which is reminiscent of a citadel/castle type feel, where it's smack dab in the middle of a dry desert terrain. The classes available here are Pugilist, which is involving hand-to-hand combat, leads to the path of a monk. And next would be the Gladiator, which is your normal sword and shield, which leads to the Paladin. And the Thaumaturg, which is your magic casting class that leads to the Black Mage. The next megacity is Gridania. Gridania is modeled after lush green forest. There isn't a place here where you will not see green. And of course, the classes available here are the Conjurer, which is based on majority of the healing, which yields to the White Mage. The Lancer, which is a spear-wielding combat class, which leads to the Dragoon. And the Archer, which is a self-explanatory bow and arrow class, which yields the Bard. Now, if you're wondering how you get an Archer to become a Bard, it's explained in the website that these bards had ancestral traits from the bowmen. So all their ancestors were bowmen, and in the heat of battle, they sang to their companions, hence, I guess, related to the bard job. The last city is Limsa Lominsa, which incorporates the vast ocean. Expect to see a lot of water here, guys. The city itself is built on top of like steep cliffs that stick out of the water. So yeah, but nevertheless, it is very pretty. Now, the classes here are the axe-wielding Marauder class, which is basically the brute force of all the other classes. It has really high strength, and upon honing these skills, you could lead to the path of a warrior. Now, the last class, which yields actually 2 possible paths, yielding 2 separate jobs, is a class that actually wasn't available in 1.0 and will finally be released in this Realm Reborn version, which is the Arcanist class, which incorporates its magic spells as well as having a pet companion to aid in battle. This class can branch off into 2 separate jobs, one of which is the Summoner that can summon miniature deities that can help you in battle, but don't be fooled by their size. And the other, which is a Scholar, where you will have a fairy companion to help you in healing your party as well as buffing your allies. Now, all these classes and jobs sound so appealing, and if you can't decide upon which one to go with first, don't fret, because upon choosing a class and reaching level 10 in your story quest, you are able to expand to other classes simply by talking to their respective guilds. Along with a plethora of quests, and fates that are open map events that occur randomly, and dungeons and chain bonuses. Leveling is easy peasy, but don't think that, you'll just be max level in all your classes. It still requires a lot of work. Oh, and you can also pull certain skills from other classes while playing another. I know that sounds a bit confusing, so for example, at level 2 Conjure, I learned Cure. I can still equip Cure and use a skill even while I'm on my Pugilist class. So this happens for certain classes and certain skills. And when you open your menu, it will actually show you what skills that you could actually equip. Okay, all you crafting junkies, Final Fantasy XIV didn't forget about you. So apart from 1.0, crafting has been revamped to be a lot less of a button mashing session, but more player friendly. And the crafting classes include, we'll start off with Alda. It will be the Goldsmith, the Weaver, and Alchemist, which all their guilds are located in that city. Now, Gridania has their guilds of Carpenter and Leatherworker, and Limsa will carry the guilds of Culinarian, Armorer, and Blacksmith. Now crafting involves using certain mats and crystals that you could obtain from gathering, and we'll go ahead and run through that a little bit. But once you have these materials, you could simply go to your menu and go to crafting log. Upon using that, it will actually open up a menu on the side for you and give you all of the recipes that you could craft from, which is a lot easier because in 1.0 you kind of had to basically guess what these menus were by adding certain recipes or certain items. But now it's all listed out to you, so it's a lot easier to figure out what you have the mats for, what you can actually create. And also crafting has its own leveling, so meaning that you'll start from level 1 and ultimately reach level 50 depending on how much you actually craft. As I mentioned, crafting involves certain raw materials, and you could obtain these raw materials by buying them from the NPC or gathering them yourself by being a gathering class. These gathering guilds are also in certain cities as well. So Alda has the Miner, Gridania houses the Botanist Guild, and Limsa Lominsa has the Fisher Guild. And you can go to all these respective guilds upon completing your level 10 story quest and join the guild and be proficient in these Miner, Botanist, and Fisher classes. And here is just a small clip of how one of these gathering classes work. Now this one is the Botanist, where you have basically an axe and you could hack a tree. Now the trees have a life bar, as you can see on the top middle of the screen, and each time you actually try to farm from the tree, the life goes down, and that actually shows you how much you could farm this tree for. Upon equipping the axe for Botanist, you will actually change the Botanist class itself, and you will be able to use a skill called Triangulate, and it will show you on the map marked by chocobo feathers where the trees are located. Upon interacting with the tree, a menu will pop up and it will give you the option about farming certain mats. So no longer will it be a guess as it was in 1.0, but you can actually farm the mats that you really need. And lastly, some additional features that will be heading over to the game will be housing, where you could decorate your own space, and that's where Carpenter class would come in very handy, as well as PvP, and of course the renowned NMs. If you don't know what NMs were, there are notorious monsters and they're really, really, really big. So thanks guys for watching, and please subscribe to be alerted for more in-depth videos covering specific topics, such as a full character creations videos for Final Fantasy XIV. Okay guys? I'll leave you with a intro to one of the possible classes or jobs that you could end up being. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I will see you later. Bye bye!